I'm Kate Hargreaves, and I'm the author of Leak. I've always been pretty preoccupied with bodies and bodily functions and all their sort of grotesqueness. It's something that I gravitated to in the poetry and the writing that I was reading. So it's something that was always on my mind. I read a lot of disability theory, performance theory, gender theory, and that sort of thing when I was in grad school. So those were issues that I was thinking a lot about. And also, I play roller derby. So the idea of a body and a body that's sometimes sore or bruised or just functioning in a way that you want it to or not functioning is something that kind of plays into my day-to-day life and something that I can't really ignore. So one of the interesting things with that is that somebody once was talking about the idea to me about the fact that you don't think about breathing until you can't breathe properly because, you know, you have a stuffy nose or you're, you know, somebody hit you in the stomach or that sort of thing. But beyond that, breathing seems so natural. And with something like roller derby, I found that I don't think about a certain muscle until it's super sore. Or you don't think about part of your body until it's not functioning how you want it to be functioning. But in the context of roller derby, and I think it comes out in the context of the book, you get the idea that there's a revaluing of these things. So a body that's sore isn't necessarily a body that's not functioning properly, or a body that's bruised isn't necessarily a bad thing in the context of the book. It's something where, you know, in a roller derby context, if you get a bruise or if you get sore, it means that you're working hard. So there's not always that sort of black and white between normal function and abnormal function, and one being good and one being bad. So that's something that really interested me about bodies and how we see how they work. Well, the leak happens in a variety of different ways. So you have, you know, bodies that are physically leaking. There's a body that's leaking chili at one point out of an abscess, which people seem to find pretty disgusting, but I think it's pretty funny. There's bodies that there's a cyclist who confuses blood, her own blood, with oil after she's been run over by a car. So there are the literal leaks of the body, but you also have the idea of the body being something that's leaking into its environment as well. So the idea of a body becoming part of a sidewalk, or a runner becoming part of her environment, or someone, you know, who falls on the sidewalk becoming a scab on the sidewalk. So kind of blending the boundaries and the sort of limits of where a body starts and finishes. And how I came to that is also thinking about the idea of minds and bodies, and how thinking about a mental state and a body, you can't really separate the two because there's always impacts from one to the other, and there's a blending between them. So the idea of a body and a mind as both being porous was interesting to me, and that's sort of how it came out in the book, in terms of the physical bodies leaking as well as the bodies sort of becoming the same as their environment and not being able to tell the difference between the two. I think a lot of the characters or the speakers who are in the book would probably say definitely not, because they're so terrified of contamination. They would say there's absolutely no immune system working there. But in a way, the way that the bodies are leaking and kind of expanding their borders is sort of like it's preempting the contamination from something else by contaminating everything around it, or by leaking out. It's sort of preempting anything kind of coming in upon that body or that mental state. And I think also the idea of the language, it absorbs things that are around it. So the language in the book has a lot of cliches that are turned on their heads and tweaked or skewed. It has a lot of puns and that sort of thing. But they're never just regurgitated exactly as they come in. I think the kind of the world of the book takes in language or ideas or concepts that are prevalent, and then in some way kind of combats them by flipping them over or changing them and regurgitating them in a different way. So I think in that way it's sort of like, working in that way where it's like a body taking in a germ and then fighting it off and throwing it up, I guess. Yeah, I think for a lot of the speakers in the book, healthcare is really fraught because on one hand, they need health and healthcare and the discourse of health and lack of health in order to validate what they're feeling and to validate a lot of their hypochondria or their symptoms. And a lot of the speakers are very somatic, and they're identifying symptoms in a healthcare context, but maybe not necessarily understanding it or reading it like a healthcare professional would. They're reading it through sort of a skewed perspective. So they need healthcare in a way in order to have that discourse, but in a completely other way, it's a really fraught issue for them because there's a great mistrust of that pathologizing in the book as well. And so there's the speaker who takes the DSM and reorganizes all of the words in the obsessive compulsive disorder entry to try and better reflect that the symptoms or the actual reality of that experience in a way that speaker kind of feels is better than a scientific document can reflect it. So it kind of speaks to a sort of mistrust of just pathologizing things in a very distant way and making them more experiential. So I think that there's kind of two sides of it where it's really necessary to the speakers and how they react to their own bodies, and it's something that they can't detach from, but it's also something that they're at a sort of distance to. Well, I think between the idea of connecting the mind and the body and the way that you can't detach those things from one another, I think that food for me became a really good example or a really good place to kind of join those two things, because on one hand you have food as calories in, energy out. And that's what you need to survive. You need to fuel your body with food in order for it to actually physically function. But on the other hand, we attach so much to eating in terms of cultural impact of eating, or eating is related to family, it's related to culture, it's related to gender in a way, it's related to self-worth for some people. So eating is such a fraught subject as well, that as much as even the idea of calories in, energy out sounds like a simple concept. For a lot of the speakers in the book, calories in, energy out is hugely problematic, and it's something that they can't get away from in their heads. So eating became this sort of location of the sort of mental and the physical coming together in a really tangible way. Ants. The ants are on their way. They've surveyed the best route to the kitchen, through the hole behind the bathroom radiator, along the floorboards in the living room, under the closet door, past the bread maker and TV set aside for next week's yard sale, around the corner, past the cleaning cupboard, over the mop handle, onto the linoleum. Behind the garbage, they gather crumbs of puffed wheat and the peel-off tag from a can of juice, sticky with orange concentrate. They send scouts to scan for rolled-up newspapers and heels of palms. They look up your skirt. They crawl between your toes. They know they can outrun you 75% of the time. They prepare to take those odds. The ants collaborate in your cereal box, in the space between the plastic bag and the cardboard, surviving on stray cornflakes that fall between and start to go soft. They take hits of Raid to boost their immune systems. The ants collect pieces of your dead skin. They imitate stray hairs, brushing your calves, hiding in the nook behind your knee, buying shares in all natural cleaning products and promoting them with 30% off coupons at the local Sobeys on Sunday. Rubbing Raid slathered bodies on the inside of the peanut butter jar, just enough to give you food poisoning. They are licking peanut butter off each other's backs. They drip raid into your instant coffee. The ants grow first a quarter, then half, then an inch long. Soon they will sit at your kitchen table ordering quiche Lorraine for dinner. Soon you will be dinner. The ants are coming to your kitchen. You wipe down every surface with antibacterial cloths and a 50-50 mixture of borax and water. You kill the scouts upon sight with the heel of your palm and watch them twitch their legs after you crush their solid middles. The ants come marching 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah, eating your peanut butter and cornflakes. Soon you will be dinner. Laryngitis. M's a hummer. Lost her voice at the wrestling match talking lingerie over the announcer. A strapless bra, a sentence thaw, skipped Tuesday night karaoke to seal the cracks in her throat, couldn't fingerspell fast enough. Hopped a cab to track down her chords at the Friday night ska show, waited 4 hours in the ER scratching her hummingbird necklace 2 syllables at the triage counter. Ear, nose, throat. Must have slipped up and out your sinus cavity. Remember when you used to laugh pop out your nose? Same general concept. Replacement parts aren't available any closer than Woodstock, but FedEx has overnight service if you're willing to pay. In the negative. Patches up her throat with pieces of an old softball and M's along to do on the radio. Cuts and pastes. Sows, swallows, croaks down the hallway. M's and ahs. Hums if you kiss her. M's a hummer. Recipe. Last night, an abscess, red and furious, seeping through the top of my sock, damp gray cotton clinging to taut skin. In the kitchen, I pour boiling water over a fork, expose and puncture, dig prongs deep into the raw mound, and the smell, not like the cat sore when it burst, sour cheese, acrid and retching, but spicy jalapeno, coriander, garlic. I press with both thumbs my foot issues, a kidney bean, clumps of ground beef, tomato juice, hot chili drips between my toes, bits of onion slide over tendons, slip into the carpet as I hop, holding the leaky foot level, hop to the cupboard for a plate and the fridge for a slice of bread to sop up my mess.